Hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm Linda Lamp, and I'm here with my co-host, Mary Ardanya.
Hi.
And we are back after a many-week hiatus, none of which was planned. Uh, and so we're anxious to get caught up with everybody and hear how everybody is and what challenges you're facing. These times, this is Let's Become a Beloved Society, conversations illuminating your path to wholeness. And we are going to talk today about what's happening here on Earth, because it seems like becoming a beloved society keeps moving further and further away. And life seems to be becoming increasingly more difficult every day. The challenges that I and pretty much everybody I know have gone through in the past month are exhausting. And so we're here to support you in navigating these exhausting times and to, I'm hopeful, give you some hope and some light. uh, and
We're trying.
yeah, right. It's quite challenging though. And so um, you can call into the studio phone if you like. The number's on the screen. If you're out of the country, you need to include a 1-907-351-3003. I have that phone with me. You can also email in questions to questions@walkingthroughyourwalls.com. Or you can message us from wherever you might be watching. So the overriding question that seems to be in a lot of people's minds today and in current days is, what in the world is happening here on Earth? How did we get where we are, not just in America, but the whole planet is really being challenged through the issues of climate change, certainly, but then also the fallout from that climate change, the starvation that's happening, the droughts that are happening, the flooding that's happening, the rising seas, all of it is just one layer of the many pieces of disruption that are occurring. So I was on Facebook last night, and I saw that a friend had her car broken into. She'd parked in a parking garage, and they busted out her window, and they stole her work cell phone.
Oh my.
And they weren't very smart people, because the thing had Find My Phone on it, and they could see it moving around. So everyone could see it moving around. The police could see it moving around. But for some reason, they couldn't seem to get the guy.
Oh.
She ends up home and is working with the cell phone carrier. And they want, in order to disable the phone, they want to send a text message. Guess what? To the phone. Now,
That's
this looks like a small story and just a small little thing. But when you really can feel into it, that's the chaotic, dysregulated energy that we're living in. And when you have enough of those things happen to you in a day, it makes your head want to explode. And you get so frustrated because nothing is making sense.
Right.
And we're surrounded by so many things at this point that aren't making sense.
Right.
That it's really a challenge to stay grounded, to stay whole, to focus on what we should be focusing on, as opposed to all of these distractions out here in the world. I'll give you another, let me set this up a little bit better. What I can see from the energy that I'm in tune with is that absolutely everything that is out of order in whatever way and at whatever level is being brought to the surface for attention and healing. I can give you some other examples. Here's an example. I had to spend some time in Anchorage this past week, like I've had to spend for the past many weeks. Lots of days in Anchorage, lots of overnights in my van. So I reached out to a girlfriend that lives in Anchorage, and we're going to meet and we're going to go to a dog park. She has a dog. I have a dog who's here with us today. And we were going to take a walk. And she said, let's go to University Lake Park. So I put the address, or I put University Lake Park in the mapping, and it tells me where to go. And I get there. And at the end of the road, there is a turnaround, and it is lined. I took a video of it because, or a pano picture of it, because it's the way Alaskans roll, but it's lined with signs that say no parking, towaway zone. This whole cul-de-sac at the entrance of this park. And there, of course, everybody's parked there. And then there's a small sign on the left-hand side of the road that says no parking for University Lake Dog Park. Use the Bragaw entrance. Well, here's the thing. Not only is there no Bragaw entrance, but the Bragaw Street that exists in Anchorage is nowhere near here.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize quite that at the time. And so I'm on the map, and I'm zooming in and out, and I'm looking for Bragaw Street. I'm looking all around the perimeter of the park for Bragaw Street. I can't find Bragaw Street. I put in University Lake Dog Park, Bragaw Street entrance, and it attempts to take me somewhere. And I found some cute little spots in Anchorage I didn't even know about while all of this was going on, but it didn't take me anywhere. And we ended up parking on the street right before that sign on the right-hand side of the street facing the park. There's actually a sidewalk and a fairly long stretch of street with no signs of anything. So I think we were legally parked, and we parked there, and we went and we did our thing. There is a southern entrance to the park off Elmore Road. Now, we turned off Elmore Road to get where we were. But if you turn at the street before that, it's actually the entrance to the parking lot. It's not marked, no sign, and not on Bragaw Street. So, it makes you wonder is this someone just playing with people? Is this an honest mistake where they put the wrong sign at the wrong spot? Except it says University Lake Dog Park. So did they just use the wrong word? Is it intentional, or is it a mistake? Is it cruelty in action, or is it just life being messed up? I don't know, but I am on a mission to get that sign fixed. So I have reached out to the park people, and I have left a message, and I will keep messaging them until I get a hold of somebody, and at least have a human being realize that, look, this is really, not only is it wrong, but it's really kind of not nice too, because you just send people off on a wild goose chase, which at this point in time, nobody needs another wild goose chase we don't need to be on.
Right.
Here's another example of the things that are out of alignment or held together with Scotch tape and glue that have worked for 20, 30 years. My husband, a couple of weeks ago, sat down for lunch. And then he thought, oh, I can start a load of my laundry. This is one of the times where I was gone to Anchorage for a couple of days. So he was going to do a load of his laundry. And he puts the laundry in and gets it going and sits back down to have his lunch. And he hears a weird noise. What's going on? What is that? And he goes all around the house. He can't figure out. And then he finally realizes that it must be coming from underneath the house. The hot water, and his key is that the hot water heater is making a bizarre, really bizarre, loud noise. He goes underneath the house, and what he discovers is that a piece of plumbing that had been held together with a hose clamp, like didn't quite finish the job, didn't have what they needed, held together with a hose clamp. This whole thing had come undone. It's been down there for 20 or 30 years, working just fine. But boom, not going to work anymore. And it's that energy of everything that needs healing has got to come to light so that you can fix it.
Yes.
Which is extremely disruptive.
Yes.
Because for most people, there's more than one thing in their life that needs attention. There's more than one thing that needs healing. There might be many things. And, not to get too personal, but my whole body is sort of acting up in all kinds of ways, which is pretty interesting because I am sort of a living experiment of word water, hydrated with loving word water. I'm very conscious about what I put in my body, and yet, everything seems to be dysregulated at this point. Mary, do you have any similar stories you want to share?
I don't know. I will see what comes. The phrase that came to me when you were talking earlier, we talked before we came on about the Scotch tape and glue and, spit and paper clips. I mean, it's like, I said my landlord used to fix everything with duct tape, and I forget what the other thing. And I'm like, no, it's not even duct tape now. It's Scotch tape. It's like
right,
lame, and everything is. And the phrase that came to me was, life is, it's all coming undone. Like everything that's not really secured, that's not like put together properly, however you want to say it, like all the temporary sort of half-assed structures that we've been working around are like, nope, we're going to fall apart. And for me, a lot has been coming up with communication. And what it really is me communicating to other people. Like, this is a big thing for me, when things aren't working, my boundaries and all, and communicating. And that's something I struggled with a lot in my youth, and I've made tons of strides and progress. And what's coming up for me right now, I was telling Linda before, is stuff is not working at my job. And I am having to say that. And, in the past, I've always been really like squeamish with how I say difficult things, to try to soften the blow.
right.
And I think I'm feeling like, sometimes if you're too careful, people miss the message. I'm just being direct. I'm not being rude or anything like that. But it's just, hey, this isn't working. I asked you, it still didn't work. I asked you again, it still didn't work. So yeah, I just have been a little bit pushing the envelope in terms of how I'm communicating at my job. I'm just, like being clear that I'm not the problem if
Right.
I'm not the problem. I mean, like I said, I told you, I said on the string with somebody, if you can come up with a tickler system that will make this person actually listen to me and respond to my emails, I'm all for that.
Right.
Just not taking responsibility that's not mine for why it's not working.
Right.
Putting it in the right lap. And
Right.
I think that right there is part of what's important right now, is
That
that,
is, that
yeah,
really is. I'm glad you brought that up. In fact,
yeah,
I had an interaction with a customer that was just so bizarre. And in the end, what I realized was that he freely admits he's got OCD, and but what he does is, beyond admitting it, he actually uses that uh, as a badge, and anything that he chooses just gets labeled, oh well, that's because of my OCD. And so as a result, he refuses to take responsibility for himself, and then he projects that out and accuses everyone around him of not taking their responsibility. And I really, his life must be so difficult on a daily basis. The thing that set him off was that someone had parked in his parking spot. So we have the 4 rooms, the Heron View, the Heron Loft, the Wood Nest, the View Nest. And he was in the Heron View, and someone had parked in his spot. And I was on one of those trips to Anchorage, so I wasn't even here to show up. My husband was out at mile 6, which meant he was really 9 or 10 miles away. So he wasn't convenient to show up. And this guy wanted somebody to show up and bang on doors and get that car moved out of his spot. And when I suggested, there are only 4 spots, just pick another spot, it'll all work out, he became unhinged. And at one point, when I said to him, because he was trying to get to the bottom of how this had happened, that someone had parked in his spot. And I made the remark that, all that I can do prior to arrival is send people the information. I can't make them read it. And he turned around and he said, that's a great excuse. And so
it's freaking reality.
That's what the energy is right now, though, right? Everything has got to get. We both have a common friend who used to use this phrase, shaking the sheets, right? When you make a bed and you're going to, if you're alone, you shake that sheet out and you let it settle. And that's where we are right now. Divinity, infinite awareness, is shaking the sheets on the energy of this whole planet, because we have for too long, both individually and collectively, moved through this 3D world, allowing things to not be in alignment, allowing people to be mistreated, allowing ourselves to be mistreated and mistreating other people, and the planet, mistreating the animals, mistreating everything, really. And so everything is right now in this stew being shaken and straightened out. And it's my belief that we're going to get to a place where things start to sort themselves out, where love and the energy of love, the 528 hertz, starts to work its way, so that we're not all walking around in this soup right now of anger and blame and rejection and depression and finger pointing, guilt, rudeness, all of these things that seem to be obsessing people at this point. So much of what's happening in the discussions, if you turn on the TV or the news, or you listen to the news on the radio, So much of the discussion is about all the things that other people have done wrong. And there may be a lot of things that people have done wrong. I'm not disputing that. But as individuals, the way we create the world of love that we're all after, the beloved society that we're all seeking, the way we do that is not by looking outward and pointing our finger outward and saying or telling people what to do or how to fix things. The way to create this beloved society is to look within us and choose in each moment a different choice, right? The other day when I was driving back from Anchorage, I was really thinking about this in a lot of detail because very few people on the planet really understand the miracle that is going on here. The miracle of what we've created and the energy of sustaining it. Because it is a collective choice of infinite awareness, of divinity, to have this planet and to have these people and to be playing out this play that we're all in. It is such a miracle. It is so amazing. And so the real peace and place that you can find peace is with yourself in the moment. Because ultimately, when you understand the physics of what's going on here, there's no such thing as time, and there really isn't anything out here. Everything that you're seeing and experiencing is a wellspring from within. And so how do we do that? And let me tell you, it's not as if I have it mastered. I understand it and I work with it, but I am not a master at this in any way, shape, or form. It is extremely, I might have thought I was at some point, but I am fully aware at this point that I am experiencing the challenges just like everybody else. Even with the understanding that I have and the wisdom that I've gained through my own personal life, every day is extremely challenging. Every moment, from moment to moment, depending on what's happening, can be extremely challenging. So that's why we're here. We're here to support that. We haven't had any questions come in yet. The studio phone, if you want to call in, is 907-351-3003. Should probably add a 1 to the beginning of that. And
I would like to chime in here and say, I mean, it's a daily process all day long. What do I want to create here in my life? And I have had some freaking challenging weeks, the last 3 weeks, all of them. I've been like, not my little happy sunshine merry self. When people ask me, how are you doing? I'm like, but I am my happy merry sunshine self, in the trappings that help to make me more cheerful. So this is what I wanted to say. It's like, find things that help you to stay in your happy place, even when you're not in your happy place, right? Like, I spent a lot of time at my job recently feeling very frustrated and challenged. And on the trolley, I took public
hello.
transportation. The energy has been nuts. People are like freaking literally crazy and figuratively crazy. It's very challenging. And so I have things I do to maintain my energy. And I've talked about before, On Friday, I wear the hearts because we're trying to be a loving society. I often wear hearts on the other days of the week too. I wear bright colored clothes that lift my energy and make me more happy. And then it also rubs off on other people. And I have people tell me how much they like, oh, that dress is so cheerful, or they love my purple hair. Or my brother said the other day when I was talking to him that he picks me up at the trolley on Wednesdays because he brings me pizza. God bless him. And he said, it's really like I look like something out of the Wizard of Oz half the time when I'm walking towards him. Hi, Nanette. We see your test. So, and also, I use crystals and gemstones. This one's malachite and blue stuff. I forget. Sodalite, maybe. Really pretty, though. And more, I don't want to advertise anybody, but essential oils that smell nice. This one has mint in it. Very uplifting. I like a lot of the citrus because they are uplifting and calming at the same time. I
Right.
have a citrus blend here that I use sometimes that, I wear it as like a perfume. So nice. Anyway, things that cheer me up and lift my spirits. And there's the cat too. And you can also use, crystals like at work to absorb negative energy from your electronics or other things. And just, listen to music that you like, that uplifts you. You can listen to it for a cathartic thing if you need to, but I would just caution about using too much sort of negative stuff. You can use that to release energy, but like I have felt for a long time, I am the curator of my inner experience. So
Right.
like I don't watch certain types of movies very much,
Right.
and there's so much like if it helps you to release stuff, then I think that's perfectly valid. But you need to not let that stuff get in you and kind of interfere with your natural state of
Right.
joy, which we do have a natural state of joy. If you go out into nature or wherever your happy place is, and the trees, the ocean, that can also be a good thing to do if you're able to. Like
Yeah.
go into nature
Absolutely.
however much you can. And for me, sometimes it's just, looking at the flowers on my walk to the bus stop.
Right.
The trees and the flowers are so beautiful. And if that's all the nature I can access right now, that's what I access. And I
Right.
do hug trees, I admit it, sniff flowers, just appreciate. Right now, I'm looking out my window and there's some really pretty fluffy clouds out there. And then there's a mountain in the distance. And just anything that can give you that moment of peace. I have a little prism crystal hanging in this window that Linda sent me, and it brings me joy because sometimes it sends colors onto the walls.
Right. Right.
So, really, what I'm saying is this is part of the inner, is influencing what we can in the outer,
Right.
right? And
Right.
this live stream with Linda and I belong to a couple of groups on Zoom, a book club, a support circle that started with the pandemic, where we just meet. And now I have this other little group of women where we just have a little text circle and we can provide support to each other. And
Right.
I really think that this is something that is becoming increasingly important right now, finding and creating
Right.
our little circles. When we find a few people,
Right.
just like go, okay, can we like make this a container where we can be supportive of each other? And that's what we're trying to do here with whoever shows up, whether now or listening later. And Nanette is here and we appreciate that. And she's in our book club circle too. She's a major tree hugger, just like me. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say is these are actual, things that I do on the daily. And even, like I'm trying to get back into meditating. I haven't been doing it. Like sit for 10 minutes. I haven't been doing it because the energy was calmer and I could bring more of my, my loving, calm self into the world. Like Linda talking about how she thought she had done a lot of this work because she did. But what's happening now is it's bringing up, it's
Right.
like churning. How I've been feeling is it's a murky mess when you were
Right.
talking. It's
Right.
like the churning energy,
Yep. Yep.
churning everything up.
Yep.
And so, things that I haven't done in several years, like this energy break thing to just kind of bubble up my energy. I haven't done
Right.
that in years. And I literally did it this week before I rode on the trolley after the day, the
Right.
day that it literally made me sick to ride on the trolley. So this is kind of my way of saying, like if you thought you outgrew something and you feel like maybe you were wrong, it's just turning so that whatever needs another look, the spirally thing, that's how energy is. I've always thought that, and things come around. And Linda was sharing elsewhere this astrology thing, and it's like it's spiraling up and it's spiraling down. And
Right.
so we're needing to work with all the energies.
Right.
It's not just all love and light.
Right.
It's
Right.
also, there's a lot of challenging stuff coming up, and that challenges us and our capacities and our abilities. And, it's all growth and learning. And the more we can kind of, I think I've talked in other groups about how if you've been kind of dealing with a lot of the trauma stuff and a lot of the being an empath and other people's energies and your energies, like if you've been dealing with trauma for a long time, this is kind of easier in a way because you're used to having to ride these shitty waves.
Right. Right. Let me
And
jump in here for a second. One of the things that you touched on is worth going into just a little. People need to be aware of the fact that I think we have 9 planets that are going to be retrograde in September, and then maybe for a while. I don't have any of that in front of me right now. So everything is just being very challenging. And if you really kind of zoom out to like a 30,000 foot level, you see a completely different picture. Neil Donald Walsh the other day in one of his courses used the analogy of a tapestry. If, like a beautiful tapestry that's hanging on the wall, if you walk right up to that tapestry and you put your nose right up against it and you open your eyes and you look at it, you're going to see something completely different than if you walk to the far end of the room, or if it's hanging in a museum, maybe you can get 30, 40 feet away from it and look at it. You're going to see something completely different.
yes.
And that's really the image that people should be holding in their minds as they're trying to go through these days and navigate what's happening here. Because we all tend to be here looking at things right close up, and they really do look dreadful. But if you pull out and you look at it from a much larger point of view, you can actually see the currents of change. You
Yes.
can see the hope. You can see the positive things that are happening. And if you can hold in your heart the realization that nothing else exists other than infinite awareness, divinity in infinite awareness, and that what's happening here for us, each of us, is the experience, for us to have an experience and stay focused right in the moment and try to make the experience as positive for you as you can. Everything else is going to sort itself out. You know, people look at the big screen and or you know, the like the political scene that's going on right now, and they get very obsessed with what these people are doing, right? And they make all kinds of judgments, right or wrong, about whether somebody's right or wrong, or telling the truth or not telling the truth. What they're doing isn't really our business. What they're doing is their business. What we're doing is our business.
Right.
And so you can look at it, but be very careful not to get sucked into it.
Right.
And picking sides. What matters is, what do you want? How does it impact you? And what choice do you make, if we're talking politics, when you go to the ballot box? That's where you can have your voice. Now, we've had some real issues in this country with allowing people actually to have their voice, and with giving people who really shouldn't have such a big voice too big a voice. So we've had some legislature like Citizens United that made corporations, gave them the power of people, which then allowed unfettered money to flow into politics. So there are some ways around that, though. And there are some states that have taken those steps, and they've instituted things like ranked choice voting. So instead of these blind primaries that are, if you vote in the primary and you've declared yourself a party, you only get the party sheet and you can only vote from the party sheet. Well, ranked choice voting does away with all of that. It opens up primaries. It allows anybody, you know, with a political affiliation to run, and it allows you to vote for anybody you want. And then it allows you to pick a second choice. If I can't have my first, I'd be okay with this one as the second, or the third, or the fourth. So this whole mechanism is a way to actually sort of overcome the powerful money influence, and right there in the ballot box allow you to have a voice, a bigger voice than you had before, because now you can choose as many as 4 people and rank them. I want this one first. If I don't get this one, I want that one. If I don't get that one, I'll take this one. You don't have to do all 4. And maybe there's only one that you like, so then you just vote for one anyway. But it's a way of overcoming some of these problems that have been laid in front of us. And so now what we're seeing are, in the places where those ranked choice votes have happened, wonderful results have come about. So we can get really bogged down in the really small details of life, and we can look at things and we can say they look terrible because we've got our nose right up against the tapestry, and all we can see is the dust and the little tiny fibers, and you know, a couple of specks of color, but not much. We don't have a picture. We don't have a vision. And that's where most people are living their lives from, is in that place of real close up, not seeing the big picture, and also not understanding the role they're playing. And so to become a beloved society, it's going to start with each of us coming to the realization that how we choose to move through the world is the most important thing before us.
Right.
And that it doesn't matter. It's not about what we're doing. It's not about the results. It's not about the accomplishments. It's not about the rewards and the medals and the kudos. None of that is what it's about. It's about the experience of what we're being. And it can be very difficult to make this shift. And that's why we're here. Mary and I are here to help everyone with this shift, because it's not an easy thing to do. And what will happen, I have a granddaughter that made a post on Facebook the other day about how school is just, going to college is not right for her, at least not right now. Whatever the pressure she feels about that, it's gotten so overwhelming for her that she actually felt she needed to make a post about, hey, I'm going to take care of me. And if that doesn't match up with your ideas of what I should be doing, I'm really sorry. She should never have had to make that post.
Right.
She should be able to feel comfortable in her life making the choices that are right for her. And that's what happens. We tell each other what we think they should be doing.
Right.
But what's really most important is thinking about, what should I be doing? How should I respond? What's my job in this relationship or in this situation?
And to go back to what you said, who am I being? Who do I want to be in this relationship? Like, if that were my granddaughter, who would I want to be? I would want to be somebody who supports her in being, the wholeness of herself, whatever that is. So how do I do that? I allow her to voice what she wants. And, unless what she wants is to like jump off a bridge or something, then I might suggest she not do that. But, out of selfish reasons, because I would want her to still be in my life.
Right.
It's like, what is our job really here on the planet? Personally, I feel my job on this planet is to support life as it expresses itself as much as possible. That's one way of putting it. There's a million ways to put it. Love, everybody all the time, but that can feel harder. I don't know. Just, who do we want to be? To me, when I ask myself, who do I want to be in this situation? Do I want to be the one who's making her feel like bad about the decisions she's making? Or do I want to be the one who she knows she can turn to if she needs someone to talk to in a difficult moment?
Right. 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 I was just looking something up, and I wanted to say while I'm doing that I was on the phone earlier with Nanette because she was having a hard time with YouTube. So I don't know if other people are also having trouble with YouTube, or what. But Facebook does seem to be allowing comments to be posted. I can't find this note, but I think it went something like this. If I'm to be known for anything, now I remember what I put it under, because I think I'm going to get it tattooed on my arm. If I'm going to be known for something, let it be love.
Well, you already are, Linda, in my book.
I appreciate that. Let me read Nanette's comment here.
Yeah.
Great points, Mary and Linda. My new addiction, which is very much a political issue, is animal wildlife programs and documentaries. They raise my energy, especially when conservation is involved. For when you can't travel to Africa, India, Australia, or dozens of other countries, it can really lead to helping in any way you can.
It's interesting because I've actually just started watching the National Geographic channel, which I hadn't been watching for literally years. Well, I didn't have TV till I moved in here. But and a lot of them are in the US too, but just seeing nature, even on
Right.
TV, if you can't go out in it. Anyway, I kind of jumped in.
No, that's okay. There are a lot of people though that can get very upset about what happens to the wildlife.
Yes,
And so it's a balance. And I know I had someone that was
agreed.
uh, talking with me the other day that cared a lot about the animals and got very upset about any kind of abuse or torture or, you know, what did we hear about just recently? Like there, something else that people are giant sea tortoises. They found a bunch of them killed clearly for their meat. And of
Oh,
course
God.
it's illegal to do that, but people are doing it anyway. Um, and so again, you can get, this is a good example. You can get really sucked into that, and you can get really your whole body can get very upset
Yeah,
over those kinds of things. So my suggestion in that is to remember that, again, it's not about what people are doing. It's how are we choosing to be? Because everything in that scenario, everything involved in that scenario chose to be in that scenario, right? It's important to remember that there isn't anything other than divinity in action happening here. So while it is easy to look around and say there's all these things that are gone wrong, there really isn't anything wrong here. It's our interpretation of it. It's our inability to see it for what it is. It's looking at it like the nose against the tapestry as instead of standing back at the 30-foot level. You can't see the whole picture. Very few people understand the whole picture. And when you do, you don't get drawn into those things. You don't get sucked into feeling bad about what happened to the animal, because it's not about that. The animal agreed to participate. So it's about something else. And what it's about is, what does it mean to each of us individually? Nanette says knowledge is power if one can deal with the abuses.
When I look at those nature shows, I'm gonna say right now that like I flipped away before the bear caught the whatever, the whale got the sea lion or whatever.
Right.
I also want to say though, Linda, you need to, because that stuff you said, I'm not saying I don't agree with it, but then you get into that tricky territory about trauma and people being abused by other people again when you say
Right,
that
right,
everyone agreed to be here and do the
right,
thing.
right.
So if you want to address that.
Right. Well, that and again, if you're in part of the trauma community, it is very hard to hear that. Uh, it doesn't make it any less true, though. Uh, and again, the best way out of a trauma situation is to focus on who are you being, right? We tend to want to focus on what the other person's doing. But so often what the other person's doing is in some way in response to whatever we're doing. So I'll give the example of my aunt. Some of you may have heard this and will remember this story, but basically I had an aunt that had taken to pretty much beating me up when I came home from college at night. And it would be late because I was in theater. And so she would wait up late and she would come at me and she would have this litany of things that I had done. And I would try to defend myself against her. And all that did was make it worse. All that did was make it worse. And so one night, instead of trying to defend myself, I allowed her to feel that she was right. It didn't mean I agreed with her, but I just said, you're right. And it completely disempowered her because, again, she was reaching out to me to hit me because I was arguing with her. I was resisting what she was saying. And so she was going to beat that into me. And as soon as I just said, you're right, it totally disempowered her, and she couldn't hit me because all of a sudden I had shifted the energy for her. And then she tried to do it again. She got ready. She let loose with a whole nother list of accusations. And I said, yeah, okay. And again, her arm dropped. We went through that cycle 3 times, and then she turned on her heel and she walked away. She never hit me again. So I'm not suggesting that we cause the trauma. I'm not suggesting that anyone deserves the trauma. I'm not suggesting that anyone is entitled to create trauma. But everything here is the result of the same thing. We are divinity in form. And we can either choose to step into our divinity and be that or not. And if you're in a trauma situation, I guarantee you, if you step into your divinity and be that, the situation will change. I just want to reach out to my granddaughter who's here, who said, I love you, Amma. I remember this story and think of it often. Thank you for being here, Jordan. It's fabulous. It warms my heart in a big way, big way. She's just moved to Texas and is pursuing a career in culinary arts, just like her grandpa. Her uppa, that's what we call him, but most people would call him her grandpa.
Cool.
So if there is anybody in the trauma community, either now or listening to this later, and you want to delve into a specific situation, please reach out. I am more than happy, both of us are more than happy to help you figure out how to shift the energy in your situation. So you can break the chain of pain. That's what it's called. When you're in a trauma situation, it's a chain of pain, because that's how it works. Somebody in pain is going to cause you pain, because hurt people hurt people. It's how, if I could tell you how I wanted to lash out at someone after putting the Bregaw Street entrance to the dog park into the Google and driving all around on these back roads till I had to, turn around in somebody's driveway because I was at the end of something, I wanted to punch somebody. I was so agitated. It was like, this is, like, why would you do this? Why would you send people on a wild goose chase? And again, I ended up dialing it back to thinking, it's got to just be a mistake. It's just got to be a mistake. Whoever put the sign up doesn't know the streets, or something. I mean, I can't allow myself to think it's intentional,
Right.
because that would just be too cruel,
Right.
But in any case, however I feel, I'm creating it. They didn't create it.
Right.
They put the sign up.
Right. That's something I wanted to talk about, is that nothing has any meaning except the meaning that we give it.
Exactly.
Nothing has inherent meaning.
Exactly.
It's like things happen, we observe them, and we create the meaning behind them. So I want to share something. I know I shared it with you, Linda. I don't know. We're not here, I'm sure, because we haven't been here in weeks. So a couple weeks ago, in the start of this several week period that I've been in, of like, yeah, I'm over it already. There was one day when two different men yelled at me on the trolley platform while I was waiting for the train. The first guy yelled at me, and then I went down the platform and another guy yelled at me. And, people say, oh, what happened? Why did they yell at you? The why of it is really unimportant. I don't think the why of it matters. They had anger, they needed a target. I was the target. And I've thought about it a lot. And I'm going to say something now that I haven't ever actually said to anybody, which is that they were both Black men. And I've thought about it a lot. And what I've thought about is, different people go through different things in daily life. And those two Black men have probably had a lot of people treat them like shit for no reason and nothing that they did.
Right.
Being stopped by police, having people like hold their purse closer, whatever kind of thing. I can't imagine the daily indignities gone through by people who our society holds in contempt to a great
Right.
degree.
Right.
Right. And if you want to
Right.
argue me with that, we can do that another time. But so I thought, I was put in that situation as someone who was not going to be reactive with these people, not only because I'm a little woman and I try not to get in fights with, people who are bigger than me, but also because I have the capacity to look at it from that farther away perspective. I have enough self-knowledge to know it was nothing to do with me at all. I
Right.
did ask someone, do my sunglasses make me look sort of like a rich bitch or something? I mean, and she was like, you're being crazy. I'm like, okay. But, it's like, I recognize it didn't have to do with me. They had to get that out. And the universe gave them what was a safe target to not react.
Right. Right.
So there was no bigger conflagration and
Right.
nothing further went of it. I
Right.
took it. I didn't absorb it as mine because I knew it wasn't. I let it go.
Right.
And I feel like I did some good in that situation by being there for them. Anyway, I don't know. I think that's an example of something. Who do I want to be in the world?
Right.
I
Right.
don't
You
want to
want to
be
be the woman that
people's,
yells at him back?
yeah,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't want to be people's target. But if somebody hurt person lashing out at me, and I can recognize that it's not personal and it didn't physically harm me, be harder if someone's physically harming
Right.
you.
Right.
But I feel in that situation I was who I wanted to be. I was
Right.
confused love.
Right. 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 And I think that that's a good note to end this podcast on is if as we're moving through our day, we can try to stay focused on the being part of things. Just see how it goes. For some people that's going to be uh, a new way of looking at things. But just try it for a week and come back and tell us how it went. Jordan says, I feel like this is a great example from the book, The Four Agreements, where one of the agreements is don't take anything personally. You're exactly right,
Yep,
Jordan. And we talk
that's
about
where
the
I
four
got it
agreements.
from.
Yep, that's where she got it from. Exactly. Don't take it personally. And this is why we don't take it personally, because the other person is reflecting themselves. There's a whole teaching about the mirror, right? But it's really not taught well most of the time because they're not mirroring you, they're mirroring themselves. And that's the real key. So, as we draw to the top of the hour here, I'm going to bring us to a close, and I'm going to suggest that we each really try this week to just be ourselves. Don't take things personally. Always do your best. Be impeccable with your word. And what's the fourth one? Be impeccable with your word. Always do your best. Don't take things and don't make assumptions.
don't make assumptions. That's a big one.
That's the big one. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will try to be here next week, Friday, and you can look for the replays where they're posted and also on your favorite podcasts once I get them posted. I'm three episodes behind at this point. So till next time, namaste and much love.
Love you all.
Love you all.